Lovely to see you this evening. I realise this is a Church of England church, but it doesn't mean you need to fill up from the back. So there are some tables and chairs at the front. If you'd like to come right up to the front, then you're really welcome to do that. So my name is David. I'm the rector of Farnham. I'm part of the team here at St Andrews, and it's our great joy to be hosting this first in a series of two meetings, one in October, one in November. We'll be saying more about that in just a little while. So I'm saying welcome to those who are here in the building. I'm saying welcome to those who are joining us on live stream, either tonight, that's Wednesday at 7:30, or later on in the evening, or later on in the week, or at some other time. You're really welcome. Whenever you're joining us, you're welcome. But can I just say that that's a little reminder that in terms of our conversation this evening, we just need to be sensitive that this is being live streamed and therefore recorded. And that's something we're bearing in mind as we give input from the front, but also perhaps sensitive as we ask questions later on in the evening. I hope that's okay. So I'll say more about the evening as it wears on, and I'll be introducing. I'm your host for this evening. We're delighted to be able to have some storytelling. We're going to be having some discussion using some amazing modern technology that I don't begin to understand, but I've got a note here as to how to explain it to you. And then we've got a panel discussion at later part in the evening. One or two people will be answering questions that you will have put to them. And then Guy will be bringing things to a close and summarising for us and reflecting the mood of the room and the way the conversation's gone before we finish with some adverts and the final prayer. So I hope that sounds okay. We promise we'll be done by 9 o'clock, and we're just really grateful to you for coming. So perhaps I could begin with a prayer. Blessed are you, sovereign God, creator of all. To you be glory and praise forever. You founded the earth in the beginning, and the heavens are the work of your hands. In the fullness of time, you made us in your image. And in these last days, you've spoken to us in your Son, Jesus Christ, the Word made flesh. As we rejoice in the gift of your presence among us, let the light of your love always shine in our hearts, your Spirit ever renew our lives, and your praises ever be on our lips. Blessed be God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Blessed be God forever. Amen. Well, I'm encouraging people to come and sit at the front here. I'm just interested that people prefer to sit theatre style, but it's entirely up to you. Guys, please come and sit at the front. That's really lovely. Good evening, welcome. I'm afraid there are only seats available at the front now, so you're really welcome. Lovely. Okay, so having given a general welcome to those in the room and those joining us on live stream, it's my particular pleasure, privilege and honour to be introducing our guest speaker. So we're so delighted tonight that we're going to be reminded that Christian faith is not just something really local or personal, it's something that's global and has massive impact around the world. And so really without more ado, because she's going to introduce herself and tell her story as she goes along, will you please give a very big welcome to Magda.
Good evening. Can you hear me at the back? Just about. My name's Esther, and yeah, it's a real joy for me to introduce Magda, who's my new best friend. Why don't you begin and give us some idea of what your childhood was like, where you were raised, and what home was like for you, Magda?
First of all, I wanted to say hi to everyone, and it's my honor to be with you this evening. So I actually raised up in a Christian family in Iran, and in a very religious city in Iran. Actually, there is a famous shrine in our city, and you can imagine being Christian in that city, how how it look like be Christian in the religious city. And my father was pastoring like Presbyterian church, and so we raised up in a Christian family, and always we were like different from all of people, most people in the school, in society, even when I went to university, I was like, the people were saying to me, why you are different? And sometimes we were so isolated because of the securities. And there were like, at that time, were few Christian families in our city. So that was kind of my childhood. But we were so happy to be in a Christian, we have a little, small, tiny Christian community. And I remember we had a very joyful time, and I was so happy, and I was so proud of my family and my Christian friends.
Wow, so a predominantly Muslim city with this tiny little Christian hub within that. So you were, but you were studying and playing alongside people from the Muslim community. And tell us about your time at university. What were you studying there?
Yeah, I studied in the university education management, and I was the only Christian student in our university, and I had to tell them I'm Christian, and they knew because I was Christian, and I had to sign something. So the principal of the university, they knew I'm Christian, and they told me, you cannot talk and share about your Christian faith or any practice. And because it was the rule of the university, I agreed and said, okay, but I'm Christian. And but everyone, they were asking me, why you are so different from us? And it was, for me, it was a hope or open the door to share a little bit why I'm different. So I was telling, obviously, I'm Christian. That's why maybe you think I'm a little bit different from you.
So having grown up with such a strong Christian faith, was there a moment when that you can recall where that faith was shaken?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
As I said, I was the only Christian in our school, in the university, and that in that area, in the university, in religious city, I was studying, and then a guy came to me and said to me, one of the students of the university came to me and said, I know you are Christian, even I know your father is a pastor, so I would like to know about Christianity. I would like to get to know who is Jesus. And you can imagine in that close, an isolated city for Christian and minorities people, it was like, for me, it was an opportunity to share about my Christian faith. So he said to me, please take me to your church and introduce me to your father. I want to know who is Jesus. So he came and to our house, because we had, at that time, all the churches was closed, and we had house church. So I took him, I trusted him. I took him to to our house, and I introduced to my father. And after a while, he started to come to our house, and one day he said, I love you, I want to get married with you. And I was thinking, I was so young, and I was thinking, okay, this is the plan of God for me. And we married, and exactly after the day after 3 months we married. And as soon as we married, he changed, and he completely became like opposite and against of my Christian faith, and he was preventing me to go to the Christians, any Christian event or even to the church or for like prayer, and it was forbidden for me to read my Bible. And I was so, at that time, I lost my hope, and I was saying to God, why you let that person, a person, to bring that darkness to my life? And, I was thinking, God is punishing me because I made a bad decision. And always I was isolated at home, and he cheated me actually, and he deceived me. And all the things he was telling me about his faith, it was lie, because he said, I love Jesus. He was coming to the church, to Sunday service in our house. Even we went to a Christian seminars with each other, and then everything turned, and I was so isolated, and I was like, completely down.
So having been part of a really warm upbringing, home, faith, a lovely community, which you thought you were going to be continuing with your new husband, continuing this relationship with him and your family, and it's just widened a little bit, when actually after the wedding day you discovered that actually that wasn't his intention at all. And he was actually drawing you away from your family, your Christian community, into something that was actually incredibly isolating for you. Yeah. So how did you cope? What was your prayer during that time?
Sure. At that moment, I was so isolated and hopeless. I started to pray to God, and I was fighting, I think, at that time with God, that I was thinking that was a punishment, or why God is letting bad people or evil people, brings darkness or bad things into my life. But I was thinking, God, I want to be at least something, I want to use my talent. I want to use my, gifts. So let me be a mother. I was praying to be a mother. I was thinking, at least I can serve my own children. So, but whenever we were talking about having a child, he was telling me, you are unclean. Unclean word by Muslim people, it's a word that it kind of curse, and that they say to other religions and minorities. And it was so strange for me, and I said, why you married with me? You are selling me unclean. And he said, because you were Christian, and I wanted to pull you back to the, turn you to a Muslim person. So that was his reason to marry with me. So I was praying and continued to pray, and finally I found that I'm expecting a baby. And I was so happy to be a mother, at least be a mother, and be a fruitful person. But as soon as he found that I'm pregnant, he started to threatening me, that said, I don't want you as a mother, as an unclean person, to feed my baby. As soon as he or she born, I will take him or her again away from you. And imagine, I was under pressure. I was always expecting to, something is happened for me. But I had hope, because I was thinking, I'm going to be a mother, and that was like, like a little light into that darkness. So yeah.
So you had a little baby girl. So tell me what that was like when you got to meet your daughter.
Her name is Kathy. And as soon as she born, he said, my ex-husband said, I don't want you to feed that baby, and you're unclean. You cannot even feed that baby. And so it was my situation, and always he was threatening me to take my baby away. And when my daughter was four months, he left us. He threw me away out of the house, and I was without money, without any job, because in Iran, in Islamic countries, you have to have permission from your husband or your father as a lady, as a woman or a girl to go and find a job. Without their permission, we cannot find a job. The government, they don't give you, and you don't have permission to work. So I was alone with my four months baby girl, and I had to go back to our, to my parents' house, and they were supported me with joy for 2.5 years. So I had to stay with them for 2.5 years.
Wow. So you now are back in a place that felt safer, and you had this 2.5 years to sow into the life of your daughter. So what did that look like? What are your memories of being a mum during those early years?
Actually, from the beginning, I was thinking my time with my little girl is limited, because always I've been under pressure by him, and he was threatening me all the time. So I had 2.5 years amazing time with my child, and that I could do whatever I can. So I started to teach about my Christian faith. Teaching. I shared all of the Bible story in a child way to her, and I could, I was thinking I put a seed, little tiny seed in her heart, and with hope. I knew I cannot see the blossom maybe soon, but I knew and I saw that seed with hope in her heart. And so even, we were singing a song, around the table, and she was there. And I'm sure she learned a lot. We had like kind of Christian cartoons. So I really wanted to do whatever I can in that limited time with her. So,
thank you so much for sharing those precious memories. I think you spoke about the shaking of your faith after your marriage, but then there was to come another great shaking for you. Could you share with us what happened next?
Yeah. During that 2.5 years, sometimes her father was coming to see my child, my baby. So, and one evening, he came to see my daughter, and he said to me, "I want to see her." And I was thinking something is happening. I don't know if you have this kind of experience. You feel it. And I feel, I say to him with weariness, "When you bring her back?" He said to me, "Don't worry, I will bring her back soon." So after midnight, when I didn't have, any news, anything happened, I just decided to go and see what's going to happen. Where is my daughter? So I went to their house because my ex-husband was living in a far away. I just went there and knocked the door and said, "Where is my baby?" And in a state, he showed me a court decision, a verdict from the court, the paper from the court, and that paper was saying the court was divorced me because I'm a Christian and I'm unclean. They wrote that word to me in Farsi. And they took my baby away. She was 2.5 years, and it was against of constitution law in Iran, because according to the constitution law in Iran, I could keep my daughter till the age of 7. But when it was against of that law, and because I was Christian, and at that time, you can imagine how much I shocked. And I say to him, this is not right. I'm going to take a lawyer and go to the court and just appeal against of this decision. So I went to the court, and again, the process took like a very, kind of 6-7 months. And during this time, I couldn't see her. But, I was, I had like, I was thinking, finally they give me my right, So I went to the court. I was in the highest court, final court, and I was in front of 2 mullahs. And they say to me, if you want to have your daughter, we give you a chance, if we give you an opportunity. And they said, if you just tell in front of the court you are not a Christian, we are going to give back your daughter to you. And in that situation, I was looking for someone to find that asking for help, because I didn't know what to say. One hand, it was my daughter. I was fighting for her like many days. And on the other hand, it was my Christian faith. And I was looking around the court, and my lawyer was telling me, just tell them you are not a Christian. It doesn't matter, you are not going to sign any paper, just tell them. And in one moment, I was looking at the eyes of the judge, the mullah. I felt Jesus is looking at me, and he is waiting for my answer. I couldn't see him again. I just realized Jesus is waiting for my answer. And I felt a very, strong presence of God in the court. And I said to them, I'm not going to say that. I'm Christian, and my God is going to bring my daughter back. And they said, we knew you are not a good mother because you didn't choose your daughter and you lost your chance. And they threw me away, and they took my baby away, and they confirmed that decision again. So, and then they said, if you want to see your daughter, you have to go to the police station. Every 2 weeks, for 3 hours, you can see your daughter in front of the eyes of the police. So even they didn't let me to do this. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, we talk, don't we, about being tested. Some of us in the room, we have a faith in Jesus, and but I wonder, I have never been in that situation where I've had to choose between Jesus and someone or something else, and to look into the eyes of the judge and to see Jesus in that moment is incredible. But you're human. Yeah. And you've spoken about this amazing faith that you have in this person called Jesus, and yet your mother's heart, that prayer that you had prayed for to become a mum and then to have that separation, what impact did that have on you?
Yeah, actually, when I came out from the court, I was like a hero, and I was telling God, see, I choose you. I'm waiting for my reward, my medal, because I choose you. And I was thinking, okay, I overcome from that big challenge of my life. And then I was waiting for my, answer of my prayer. My prayer was, okay, I was telling to God, okay, I choose you, and you're going to bring me back my daughter. But it didn't happen. And for 7-8 months, I didn't have any news from my daughter. And I went to depression. And again, I was, I lost my hope. I was hopeless, helpless, and I would feel miserable. and I was thinking I'm nothing, because if I was a good person or good mother, God would let me to keep my daughter. So I went to depression. At that time, an earthquake happened in our country in the middle of Iran, and very bad earthquake. Lots of people, they lost their life. So, and I was hearing from the news and the television the cries, the tears, but I wasn't care. I was thinking, I'm like them. They lost their people. I lost my child. So I went to depression as a human, and I had a lots of why from God. I said, I did the right things. I chose you. And why you are not answering me? And completely I lost my hope.
You speak about this this local personal crisis that you're going through, and then there's this national crisis that's happening, and you talk about the amazing way in which this God that you're calling out to, and you're asking these questions, why have you allowed this to happen? And in that calling out into the darkness, God stepped in quite an incredible way. Can you tell us what happened? What was the invitation?
Yeah, I was actually, even 7 months I didn't come out from my room. I was isolated and depressed. And suddenly at that dark time, one of my friends who was working with Elam Ministry as a relief project manager in the situation of earthquake, he said to me, Magda, come come with me, and we are going to help children and people, women, all people who are remained from the earthquake, and we have a big tent and we want to do something for these people. And I say to him, I cannot come, because if I don't want to come. I'm nothing. If I was a good and good person, or if I was something, if I had something, God would let me to keep my child. And I turned off the phone and went back to my room. And then suddenly my mom came to my room and said, she is a woman of prayer. And she came to my room and said, I accidentally heard what you were talking to my friend. So I want to encourage you to trust to God. You put your baby. My mom reminded me the story of Moses and Jacob, Moses' mother, and said, as she trusted to God and put her baby in the basket and put him in a river, you put your daughter in the hands of God and let her go. I'm sure God would bring her back to you and go and serve people. And it was a light in my mind. I said, yes, okay, I'll go. And I went there, and as soon as I was in that situation and I saw that people, that children, that they lost generation, and God started to heal my broken heart, because they needed someone like a mother to hug them, to show motherly love, to show them love, hug, and just hold them into the arm. So, and I was full of that kind of love, because as a mother who lost a child, I was full of motherly love, and I wanted to show my love to someone, to a child. So, little by little, my hope built up, and my, when they were calling me mom or auntie, I was thinking God is using me, and I thought I'm not, a miserable or just a miserable person. God is using me as a vessel So I'm useful for these children, and God, little by little, build up my confidence, my personality, also my identity, the most important things.
I want to just come back to that in just a moment. So Magda, the invitation was to go and serve in this emergency relief tent for children for 10 days, and you stayed for a year.
Yes.
Just pouring into these orphans.
Yeah.
And giving back to them love that they were very much missing from their families. And at the same time as you were giving out, you felt that there was a much deeper healing happening in your own heart, and the depression was lifting as you were serving. Can you, I mean, we always hope, don't we, when we think about our hope in Jesus, or perhaps those on the outside looking into Christianity might consider miracles being very sudden, and you would have loved for a sudden miracle in your story with Catty. But actually the work of God was very slow and very gentle for you. And can you tell us a little bit about your identity and what revelation you found during that time?
Yeah, thank you. As a woman in Iran, and in that situation, when I was with my daughter, all of my hope, all of I was dependent on her, and she was everything for me. Still, she is, And I was thinking, I'm mother of my daughter, and it seems all of my identity was dependent on her. And when she went, I lost everything, even my identity. So, and when I just trusted to him, and I went to that situation, earthquake situation, I realized God is telling, I'm looking, because you trusted me, I'm looking after your child, because you put it you put her in my arms, in my hands, and that is my responsibility to look after her. But I was a mother of 1,000 children. 1,000 children, they were coming to see us, and each one of them, they could, that, for example, they could be my child as well. So, and that was, I started to realize I'm far away from worship. I'm far away from thanksgiving. I started to worship and thanksgiving to God, because He gave me that opportunity to find my identity in Him, not as a, not in being mother or being a wife.
Thank you so much. You had written that you refused to accept the identity of being a woman who lost everything, and embracing an identity of loving and being a mother to many. Yes. I'm conscious of the time, so we're going to just speed. We're going to do a little bit of fast forward into your story. And at this point, you still haven't seen Catty. And now Magda is in Turkey. She was invited to go to Turkey, where you did some training, and you had the opportunity to respond to the need of refugee children in Turkey, and you opened up a school. Can you tell us about that first day, the first day of opening up the school, and why that was significant to you?
Yeah, as you said, I could establish a school for the refugee children in the church, so I just realized this, the first day of the school for the refugee children, it's the same day for my daughter in Iran. She was going to the nursery, And, as a mother, I wanted to take her hand and go and take her to nursery. And I didn't have that, that opportunity. And my heart was broken. And and then I realized, I just turned back and I saw 20 children, and they were hanging all over, me, my hand, my leg, my dress. And I just realized God is saying, I take her hands. You take these children's hand as the mother, as their teacher. And it was comfort for me. And again, built up my faith. God is looking after everything. When we lost with something, it doesn't mean God is, when we trust Him, it doesn't mean He will give us exactly the same thing that we lost. He gave us better things. And I realized, okay, I'm just leading and being a mother and teacher, and for these refugee children who they don't have any opportunity, anything to, even some of them, they didn't have anything to eat. And they were so poor. And it was my honor to serve this kind of children, and it was comfort for me.
And so you've been responding to the needs in Turkey for years and years and years. That's where you've been living. You were at a conference. So during that time, for 20 years, you still hadn't seen your daughter, but you heard little bits of news from family that were still living in Iran. But then this summer was quite significant. Can you tell us about what happened?
So I didn't see her for 21 years. And in this summer, I was in a conference. I went for a ladies' conference in Turkey. And as we preparing everything for the ladies arriving, I had a phone call from my daughter, and she said to me, where are you? I want to come and see you. And I was shocked. And I said, where are you? She said, I'm in Iran. And I said, I'm in Turkey. She said to me, Mom, I want to come and see you, be there. So she could fight with her father for getting her passport and come and see me. And you cannot imagine, the first moment after 21 years I saw her, we were not kind of far from each other. It seems we knew each other, we lived with each other. And I realized how God's promises was true, and He was so faithful. When I just gave all the responsibility of that pain to God, and I put all the things in His hands, I just saw my daughter, and I say to God, you did your responsibility very well. She wasn't far from me. She was so friendly. She was full of love to me. And even her Christian faith, I remember when we were singing with each other around the table for blessing the food. And I remember she was there. And then when she came to see me, my family are in Istanbul, and they invited her for a dinner, and we sang that song again. And I just realized she's singing with us. And even for me, all these things is a sign how God is faithful for the people who trusting Him. He is faithful. I lost lots of moments with my daughter, lots of days. I didn't see when she went to a school. She went, for example, she was all the childhood and teenagerhood. But I received a lots of other things, which is very, very, very precious for me. And yeah.
So beautiful. So wonderful for us to be able to hear how that hope, what that hope looks like as you were with Catty this summer. And also I'm just thinking about how powerful it is to sow those seeds of faith at such a young age, and we just don't know what is being cultivated in the heart. We're so grateful to you. And Magda, you've spoken about this long journey of having to trust God and to hold on to hope for him to bring about something very different to what you perhaps had planned. And we're going to be moving into a time now where you can be thinking about Magda's story and looking at the subject of hope. And I think David's going to help facilitate that. I just wanted to say that you haven't come to the end of this story. There's still a lot that you need to trust God for. And so you're still holding hope for your ongoing relationship with your daughter. And but I'm just so grateful. Can we show our thanks to lovely Magda for her story this evening?
Well, Magda, thank you very, very much indeed. That's a truly remarkable and compelling story. We're really grateful to you for sharing that with us tonight. Around the tables, you might just want to have a couple of minutes to reflect on the story that we've heard unfold. You might want to be thinking about the kind of questions that you'd like to ask. And the way we're going to do that is through the technology called Slido. So behind me on the screen, you should see a QR code appear. And on the QR code, if you put your camera, if you've got a camera phone, you can put your phone up to the QR code, and that will take you straight away to Slido. Or you can find on your phone slido.com, and there is a little code that you can put in, and I will tell you what that is. That is 379-8770. That's 379-8770. And if you're watching at home, I think you can do that from home, even though you're not here in the building. Obviously, that's only true as we're live. It won't work if we're on callback or whatever you call it. So, just for the few minutes, please be chatting around the table, thinking about a question that you'd like to ask. They will then appear on the Slido, and the most popular question will be at the top. And then it's going to be my privilege to ask the questions to our panel. So, let's just take a few minutes to do that, and then I'll call us back together. So as you're wrestling with the technology or perhaps putting a question up of your own, you can also vote for other people's questions. As you see which questions are being asked, you can also vote for those, and that bumps them up the list. If there's something particularly catches your eye and you think, I'd like to hear that one, then you can vote for that, and that will take it up the list. Another couple of minutes, and then we'll come to questions. Okay, so can I encourage us then to bring that little conversation to a close on our table, but to invite the panel to come and join me here at the front. We're going to invite Magda to come back, and Esther, who's been really fantastic doing the interview. We should give Esther a round of applause as well, because Esther was a great interviewer. Thank you very much indeed, Esther. It was really lovely. Really good. And so please, Magda and Esther, please come back and join us here in the panel, but also come and join Joseph. Joseph is the assistant pastor at Farnham Baptist Church. He's a new friend. He's been in the town a little while, and we're just delighted to get to know him. And of course, one of the things that we love about these kinds of events is that we get to share in ministry together. We get to work together as friends and colleagues, and that's just really, really good. All right, well, let's then have a look at what Slido is offering us this evening. Oh, yes, I was wondering that. So here's the question, Magda, for you. How are you keeping in contact with your daughter now? And are there restrictions with where she lives? Are you able to say a little bit more about that?
I can talk to her on phone, and we are talking with each other on Telegram, and even we are more close to each other, and she's always, sometimes midnight, because Iran times is different. She's calling, and I submitted myself to answer her for. And whenever I can, even when I'm sleeping, I'm putting like a message for her. I'm gonna sleep because of the time, but I'm available for her, and she can talk to me on phone. And she's coming in around March to see me again.
Wow.
So, and we can have like 3 weeks with each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's such an exciting next part of the story, isn't it? And as Esther said, the story is by no means over. There's much more to come. Thank you. Lovely. Okay, next question then. Such a hard story to hear. Thank you. When bad things happen, I've tended to blame God. But Magda's framed it differently. What can I do to stop blaming God?
I did it, and I think it's very normal. In the book, in a Bible, we have a lots of, verses, Psalms that they are just fighting with God. They're blaming God. They say, "Why you left me alone?" So it's very normal. This is the real relationship, and God wants you to be a real, and say your pain to God. And blaming God is not a big deal. I think the David in Psalms, you can see a lots of verses that he blamed God.
Lovely. That's great. Thank you. I mean, Joseph, obviously this is a particular question for Magda's context, but is there a wider comment that you might want to make about that?
Yes, I would just echo what Magda said there. Really, I think that question, how do I stop blaming God, doesn't require you to go straight back to the drawing board, but just requires a slight change in perspective. So actually, as Magda pointed out, throughout the Bible, there are many examples of people essentially looking to God and saying, why are you allowing this in my life? So Job, David, even Jesus on the cross said, my God, why have you forsaken me? And I think the point for us as Christians is to move beyond that point. And God invites this. In Isaiah, God says, come now, let us reason with one another. And so God is just calling us to take the next step. And when we recognize difficult periods or times in our life, he's saying, okay, you're acknowledging that I am in your life. You're acknowledging that, I've permitted you to go through this period or allowed this thing to be in your life. But the question is now, how do you move from there to continue trusting me? So the point perhaps that where we often stop, if we're confronted with something, is we blame God and we say, well, God isn't taking care of me, or God isn't going to see me through this. But the point is to lament and to acknowledge our difficulties before God, but then allow him to take us beyond it in trust and faith.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. That's great. Now, another particular question, and again, this was a question in my mind, I'm sure in many of us, as we think about this. How is your daughter's relationship now with her father? Given all that you've said about how things have changed.
I and my family and I, we never tried to turn her against to her father. And we didn't say, I can confess and say I never said any even negative word against her father. So she learned, and she has a good relationship. I stopped when she wanted to, even on the phone. Sometimes they could talk to each other on the phone, and I never let her to start to, say negative things against of her father. And that was, I think, a trap for me. And I just, put it away, and I didn't want it to stuck in that trap.
Sure, lovely. No, thank you. That's really helpful, really helpful. Now, the theme of our evening and your story has been infused with hope. Our theme tonight has been all about hope. So here's a question. What is hope? Is it a feeling or in your mind? Now, I don't know whether, Esther, you'd like to come at that, because it's a bit more of a general question.
Such a good question. I was thinking about this whilst walking the dog this afternoon. I think if I was to describe hope, I would have to describe it as Jesus rather than a feeling. My feelings are so up and down and so unreliable, and therefore hope would be unreliable if it was something that I had constructed myself. But I do believe that Jesus is hope, and he's gone before us. He's walked this journey of suffering before us, and has left us with a blueprint of how to navigate suffering and pain, and not just the suffering that we encounter, but how to compassionately come alongside those that are going through the most, indescribable pain, and we're seeing so much of it locally in our own families and more further afield. It's just insurmountable suffering. But Jesus, he walked that path, and so therefore I have a role model, and that Jesus is my hope. It's a person rather than a feeling.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. Magda or Joseph, do you want to add anything? Joseph?
Yes, I would agree with Esther, and I would also extend upon that and just say that I think hope in Christ, in Jesus, can manifest as a feeling and in your mind. So throughout God's word, there is a causal link between the heart and mind, and you can understand and believe in your mind that Jesus was the Son of God and that he died and rose from the dead, and understand that God is the creator of the universe. And when you break these things down, they're all very rational and sound, and they make sense. And it can also manifest as a feeling. The Holy Spirit lives in us and through us, and we feel joy and a sense of expectation as a result of that. So whilst, as Esther said, hope is ultimately Jesus, it can manifest in your mind and through your feelings.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, now Magda, back to you for this one. Thank you very much for speaking with us this evening. Questioner says, are there any special things that helped you in your hope and healing?
Yes, a Christian community and godly people, they were around me and pray for me. For example, I had my mom, she was encouraging me. I had my father, my brothers and sisters. Being in the community, being with the godly people who can pray for you, support you, is very important, because at that time we are so weak. And when you are weak, you cannot pray and do nothing for yourself. And, I was, at that point, I was so hopeless. Even I couldn't pray for myself. So being with someone who is like stronger than you, to support you, good friend, Christian community, church is very important, was very important for me. And still till now, I just want to add, I had, a lady in America. She is praying for me 21 years.
Wow.
It's such a great blessing and support.
Sure. Lovely. Thank you very much. That's great. I wonder whether we could link these next two questions together. How do you continue to remain hopeful throughout long periods, and what helped you hold on to hope? And then I'm interested in whether as church ministers you feel people are less hopeful now, and how we can encourage more hope. So what are the things that we could imagine would help us to hold on to hope when things seem difficult and despairing? And do we feel people are less hopeful than they used to be? How can we encourage more hope around the place?
Good question. I think to respond to the second one, I don't know if the congregation, if it is feeling like a more hopeless existence. I think the speed with which news travels is obviously a lot quicker, and how accurate that is, with the media wanting to drive fear into situations where we might, as a church, have an opportunity to look at where the opportunities are for action. But I think, hope does look like stepping forward into darkness. And as Magda has shared so many times in her story, there's always room to act. And I think without that action, where is the hope? And so maybe that's the response for the church, is looking at what can be done, and taking that small step forward to alleviate or to show mercy or to help a situation.
Yes, thank you. Joseph, anything to add to that?
Well, I must admit, I haven't been alive for that long, so when it says less hopeful now, it's not a massive time period.
These youngsters, goodness me. Right, okay.
But I do think that one of the reasons why perhaps people are feeling less hopeful now is because the emphasis is very much on what is in front of you, and what is in this world, and what you can obtain physically, and that has roots in a historical trend, so kind of going big here. But since the Enlightenment and since the dawn of secular humanism, there's been a shift towards what you can see, materialism, and your bones and your flesh and just anything physical and not much beyond that. And so I think a big way to actually counter that, when we say how can we encourage more hope, is to actually point to God as the creator. So when we talk about hope in Christianity, we talk about Jesus, yes, of course, and we talk about heaven in the future, yes, but we also need to look back into the past. Because when you recognize that God created the world, that all things were created through Christ and for Christ, that he is the origin, he is the designer, you realize that the universe and you have a purpose. And so you don't just live in this reductionist worldview where all you can hope for is life, death, and everything in between. But if you recognize that God is creator, and that's a very rational, sound argument to make in your heart and mind, if you recognize that God is creator, it allows you to look at the world and your life with a renewed sense of hope, because you can counter that shift that Western thinking has been going through for hundreds of years.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Joseph. So the big picture of God in the world is a good place to start. Thank you. How can we be hope bringers to people, is a question. How can we be hope bringers to people? Who wants to go first on that one? Joseph.
Well, I think that we can't, Jesus can, and it is our job to reflect and glorify the Lord. And so ultimately, I would just say living a faithful life before God, being consistent, living out your calling in being a disciple, and being loving, caring, faithful, and just taking up your cross daily.
Brilliant, thank you. Magda?
Yeah, I agree with 100%.
Right, excellent.
Yeah.
Esther, you agree as well? Okay, lovely. Final question then, because I'm conscious too of the time. When Paul was in hopeless situations, he told us to rejoice in the Lord always.
Yeah.
How did you achieve that in your struggles? Or maybe I'd say, how do we achieve that in our struggles? But Magda.
I really love that the word of rejoice. For me, I was like, even in ministry, in normal life, for example, I remember when I went to that situation, earthquake situation, with that background, that I lost everything, I'm like now depressed. I went there. When I started to worship God, and, as Paul says, little by little, I found that even everything, my negative thought, my depression is going to be away, and, I could see many beautiful things, even my perspective changed. So rejoicing, and worshiping, it's changing your perspective.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Well, perhaps it's appropriate really for Magda to have the final word in our little panel. So can we say to Magda, to Esther, and to Joseph, thank you very, very much indeed, all of you. It was great. Wonderful. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to ask Guy to come and reflect with us a little bit on all the things we've been hearing about. But just to say that Magda's come with a lovely friend, Louise, tonight. Louise, thank you so very much for coming as well. And if you're wanting to find out a little bit more about Iran and beyond, what's going on, some of the story, contemporary news and so on, then this will be a place to have a look. There's some magazines at the back. And if you've enjoyed this evening in the way that it's really stimulated you to think, well, I could pray, maybe I should pray, then there's a little booklet also which would help you to focus on praying for Iran. So those are pieces of literature available at the back. Please do have a look before you leave. Handing over now to Guy.
Thank you, David. Magda, what an inspiration. I want to be more like Magda. Just your courage, your conviction, your integrity. I mean, you as you're speaking, I know you're probably feeling awkward me saying this to you, but I just want to honour you in front of these people this evening, because the way you were speaking with you were glowing. You're talking about the most painful situation. I'm a dad, and I cannot imagine the pain that you have suffered. 21 years of that separation. But the way you're speaking with hope just inspires me. So I want to be more like Magda. But I know that Magda would say that she just wants to be like Jesus. And so I don't really know how to sum up this evening, because I haven't walked that same story of persecution. We've all felt, haven't we, persecution. We've all felt pain and separation and disappointment. That is a part of living. But to continue to be able to hold hope in the face of such adversity is truly remarkable. And I think what's really struck me is that Magda's faith looks like something. Because faith, when we read the Bible, it was never about just this mental agreement. It was never just supposed to be a philosophy or a belief structure. But it looks like something, and it feels like something. And Magda's faith looks and feels like something, and that's the anchor for her hope. That was the thing that kept her holding on. Was it just determination? Was it just perseverance? Was it just bloody-mindedness and strength of character? I don't know. I don't know Magda well enough. But I would say that from hearing your story, Magda, it is leaning on the person of Jesus. Now, we all have faith in something. Right now, we're exercising faith in these chairs that David has kindly put out for us. We all have faith in something. But my question is really for us to ponder as we leave this evening is, what do you have faith in? Or perhaps who do you have faith in? And is that thing reliable? Does that thing keep you going? Maybe your faith is in yourself. Maybe your faith is in your experience or your skill or perhaps your finances. Or your faith is in your family or your spouse or a friend. But we all put our faith in something or someone. And so the question really is, who is your faith in, and how's that working out for you? Because Magda has been speaking about someone that has held her throughout the most difficult of times. So really a question for you is, who is your faith in? But I just want to, again, honour you, Magda, for sharing your story. And I do want to be somebody. I am a person of faith, but I want to be a person of more faith. And what I love is in the Bible it says, I believe, help me in my unbelief. And God can handle the doubts. God can handle the questions. God can handle the difficult stuff. I think it's when we're real with God that we really understand who he is and who we are. And so I'd encourage you in your questioning, or perhaps you're in a place of persecution or brokenness right now, I would encourage you to be real with yourself and real with God and ask those questions, because he's not a nebulous, vague concept, but a person who lived and suffered and died so that we can know what true life is. I want to say thank you for coming. I know that with these evenings, there's always a question behind the question. We're talking about suffering this evening. And the question behind that is what is your suffering at the moment? And we want to be a community that is listening, and we don't always have short, quick answers. We don't want to be someone that just says, well, it says in the Bible. We want to be real with you. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that the churches that are involved in this and in the coming events, we're real people that are living a journey and just trying to understand how we can be true to ourselves and true to our faith. And so please do come and speak to us, come and ask us questions. If you've got a flyer and you booked on through that, then you'll be able to get in contact with us. And we'd love to have a coffee and a conversation with you about the question behind the question. So thank you for coming this evening. David, thank you for hosting us. Are you wrapping up for us? You are, so I'm not going to wrap up then. So really, what I want to say is, I want to be more like Magda, but I know Magda wants to be more like Jesus. So I suppose that's who I want to put my trust in more as I journey through this life. Thank you, Magda, for sharing your story. Esther, Joseph, thank you for being here. David.
Thank you very much indeed, Guy. That's a really lovely reflection on what we've all experienced together in hearing Magda's story. Well, as Guy's indicated, this is part of a series of events that are happening during the autumn. And if you've had the flyer, you'll see that it's got this side, which is all about tonight, but it's also got this side, which is all about the next in the series of events. So the next in the series of events is on the first Thursday in November. Similar time, 7:30, same kind of format as we've had this evening. But then we'll be listening to somebody else's story, Marion's story. Someone who's been crippled by anxiety, but set free from that and has found rest in a turbulent world. Don't know about you, but I find stories really compelling, and tonight's been a really good example of that. And I think Marion will also excite, inspire, challenge in the same sort of way. So if you'd like to join us again for that, please do. And the third and final event in the Together series is our carol service at Christmas. It's on the 1st of December, Sunday, the 1st of December, 4 o'clock in Gostry Meadow, the open air, wrap up warm. It's going to be a chilly but bright winter evening. And we're so excited that J. John is coming to speak. J. John is an international evangelist. He's got a great gift for communicating and telling stories. And if you've not heard him before, then I think you'll find him really quite inspiring. So we'll be hearing more about that as the term goes on. There will be other events happening in individual churches, but these are the main ones that we're kind of doing together. And if you're able to be part of that and come and join us for them, that would be wonderful. So I wonder whether I can draw the evening to a close by saying, if you've been moved by anything tonight, want to talk to anybody or pray with anybody or something like that before you leave, there are people around who could do that. I'm going to lead us in a prayer, and then just say that before you leave the building, if you could possibly help us with moving chairs and tables, we'd be ever so grateful, because we've got something else happening tomorrow night. It's an exciting week. Will you stand and let me pray? Here's the prayer. Visit this place, O Lord, we pray, and drive far from it the snares of the enemy. May your holy angels dwell with us and guard us in peace. And may your blessing be always upon us. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you so very much for coming. I wish you a safe journey home, and we look forward to seeing you next time.